At first, all I saw was fear. Raw, shaking, uncontrollable fear packed into a small, trembling body with sharp teeth and desperate eyes. When she lunged at me, trying to bite, it wasn't anger, it was survival. Every growl, every snap of her jaw was her way of saying, "Please don't hurt me. The world already has." I froze for a moment, heart racing, unsure whether to step back or stay. Something in her eyes stopped me from leaving. Behind that aggression was a soul that had learned the hard way that trust could be dangerous. She had been living on the streets for who knows how long. Scars marked her body, not just physical ones, but invisible wounds left by hunger, cold nights, and human cruelty. When I moved closer, she snarled louder, her body stiff like a coiled spring ready to break. People nearby warned me to stay away. "She's wild," they said. "She'll hurt you." But wild isn't born, it's made. And I could feel that her anger was really pain screaming for help. I sat down on the ground, a few feet away, making myself small. I didn't reach out, I didn't force anything, I just sat there, letting her see that I wasn't a threat. Minutes passed, then more. Her growling slowly softened into heavy breathing. Her eyes never left me, watching for the smallest sign of danger. I spoke softly, not expecting her to understand the words, only the tone. A calm voice can sometimes go where hands cannot. When I finally moved, it was slow, almost painfully slow. I extended my hand, palm down, not touching her, just letting her smell me. She snapped again, teeth flashing inches from my skin. My heart jumped, but I didn't pull away. Instead, I stayed still. That moment felt like forever. Then something changed. Her ears lowered, her body sagged slightly, as if holding herself up had suddenly become too exhausting. That's when it happened. I gently wrapped my arms around her, not tight, not trapping, just enough to say, "You're safe." For a second, her body went rigid. I thought I'd made a terrible mistake. Then, unbelievably, she broke. The tough, aggressive shell shattered. She let out a sound I will never forget, not a growl, not a bark, but a sob. Her whole body shook as she pressed into me, crying like she had been holding it in for a lifetime. Tears ran down my face too. In that hug, there was no fear, no anger, no past, just two broken beings finding comfort in each other. She licked my hand softly, the same mouth that had tried to bite me moments earlier. That was her surrender, her way of saying she was done fighting. From that day on, everything changed. She followed me everywhere, never more than a step behind. At first, loud noises made her panic. Sudden movements sent her hiding. But slowly, day by day, she learned that she didn't have to be afraid anymore. I watched her transform from a scared, defensive creature into a playful, loving companion. Her tail, once tucked tightly between her legs, began to wag freely. Her eyes softened. She started sleeping peacefully, something she probably hadn't done in a long time. There were setbacks. Some days, old fears came back without warning. But each time, I was there. I hugged her the same way I did that first day, reminding her that she was not alone. Trust is not built in a single moment, it's built in thousands of small ones. Feeding her, walking her, talking to her, protecting her. Every act whispered the same message, "You matter." People who met her later couldn't believe she was the same animal. "She's so gentle," they said. "So friendly." They didn't see the journey it took to get there. They didn't see the nights she woke up shaking from nightmares, or the days she refused to eat because fear still lingered. Healing isn't pretty, but it's powerful. What surprised me the most was how much she healed me too. In saving her, I found parts of myself I didn't know were broken. Her loyalty, her unconditional love, her joy in the smallest things, sunlight, a walk, my voice, reminded me what really matters. She didn't care about mistakes, money, status, or the past. She cared that I was there. That I chose her when everyone else walked away. Now, we are inseparable. She waits for me at the door. She celebrates my return like it's the best moment of her day. When I'm sad, she knows. She rests her head on my lap, looking up at me with those same eyes that once burned with fear, now full of love and trust. That bond, born from pain and sealed with a hug, is unbreakable. This is not just a story about an animal. It's a story about what happens when compassion meets fear. About how love can reach places violence never could. About how sometimes, the ones who try to bite are the ones who need a hug the most. We didn't just become friends. We became family. In that first hug, it changed both our lives forever. After that first breakthrough, life didn't suddenly become perfect. Healing never works that way. What changed was not the absence of fear, but the presence of trust. She still startled easily, still flinched when a hand moved too fast, still froze at sounds that reminded her of a past she couldn't forget. But now, instead of running away, she ran to me. That alone felt like a miracle. The first night I brought her home, she didn't sleep. She paced the room slowly, nails clicking softly on the floor, stopping every few minutes to check if I was still there. Each time our eyes met, I spoke gently, the same calm tone I had used on the street. Eventually, exhaustion won. She curled up near my feet, not touching me, but close enough to feel safe. I stayed awake longer than usual, afraid that if I moved, she might panic. Watching her chest rise and fall, I realized how long she must have gone without real rest. The next morning was another test. New place, new smells, new rules. She refused to eat, backing away from the bowl as if it might hurt her. I didn't force it. I sat on the floor again, just like before, eating my own breakfast slowly so she could see that food didn't mean danger. Hours later, she took one cautious bite, then another. When she finally finished, she looked up at me proudly, tail wagging just once. That tiny movement felt bigger than any victory I had ever known. Days turned into weeks. We built routines, because routines feel like safety to those who have lived in chaos. Morning walks became her favorite. At first, she stayed glued to my leg, trembling at passing cars and strangers. Over time, her steps grew more confident. She started sniffing the air, curious instead of afraid. She even barked once at a bird, then jumped back in surprise at her own voice. I laughed, and she tilted her head, confused, then wagged her tail harder. That was the moment I saw playfulness return. But the past has a way of resurfacing when you least expect it. One evening, a loud bang echoed nearby, fireworks, maybe. She panicked instantly. She tried to hide under the table, knocked over a chair, and began shaking uncontrollably. Her eyes were wide, distant, like she wasn't in the room anymore. I didn't shout. I didn't grab her. I lay down on the floor and opened my arms. It took several minutes, but she crawled into that space, pressed against my chest, and cried again, just like the first day. I held her until the shaking stopped. That night taught me something important. Love isn't about preventing fear. It's about being a safe place when fear shows up. As her confidence grew, her personality began to shine. She had a silly side, stealing socks and parading them around proudly, then acting offended when I took them back. She loved sunbeams and would chase them across the floor, completely serious about catching the light. She learned how to ask for belly rubs by flopping dramatically onto her back, legs in the air, eyes hopeful. The same animal who once tried to bite now trusted me with her most vulnerable moments. People noticed the change. Friends who visited were shocked. Is this really the same one? They asked. She greeted them cautiously at first, then with growing curiosity. If they respected her space, she rewarded them with gentle nudges and soft licks. She was teaching everyone the same lesson she had taught me: trust must be earned, not demanded. There were moments when I felt overwhelmed. Caring for a traumatized soul takes patience, energy, and heart. Some days felt heavy, but every time doubt crept in, she did something small and beautiful, resting her head on my knee, following me from room to room, looking at me like I was her entire world. In those moments, quitting was never an option. One afternoon, while walking in a quiet park, she let go of her fear completely for the first time. She ran, not away, forward, ears flapping, tongue out, pure joy in every stride. I stood there watching, tears in my eyes, realizing how far she had come. Freedom no longer scared her. Life no longer felt like a constant threat. When she ran back to me and jumped gently against my leg, I knelt down and hugged her, whispering how proud I was. What surprised me most was how deeply our bond affected my own life. I became more patient, more present. I noticed small joys the way she did: the warmth of the sun, the comfort of silence, the power of simply being there. She taught me that strength doesn't always look like aggression. Sometimes, strength looks like choosing to trust again after everything tells you not to. Months passed, and the scars on her body faded, but the ones in her heart healed even more beautifully. She learned commands, learned to play, learned that hands could be kind. And I learned that love can rewrite even the most painful stories. Now, when she sleeps beside me, completely relaxed, paws twitching as she dreams, I think about the day she tried to bite me. I smile, because I know that wasn't her true self. That was fear wearing armor. All she needed was someone willing to see past the teeth and hear the pain. We didn't save each other in one dramatic moment. We saved each other slowly, day by day, hug by hug. And that kind of friendship, the kind born from brokenness and healed with compassion, lasts forever.